What is going on, my Houston Texans family? So you guys have already been asking me about the draft and free agency, and we got to pump the brakes, right? We don't have an OC yet. We don't have a DC yet. I do think it'll be Bobby Slowick and the D-line coach from the 49ers. Apparently, we've interviewed the wide receiver coach from the Bengals as a potential OC for the Houston Texans, but nothing's set in stone yet. I will be bringing on Harley, the lead, who does a great job of picking the staffs every single year. And without further ado, right, you guys have been asking about free agency now that we have DeMeco Ryans as the head coach. And with DeMeco being here, this Houston Texans team, this job now becomes attractive. You saw the amount of love and the amount of appreciation and excitement we had in the press conference, excitement when we had the days leading up to DeMeco Ryans being hired. It is all positive energy. It is all hype. It is all excitement here in Houston, and I think that is going to be contagious when it comes to free agents. You already see former 49ers talking about, coming with DeMeco. It was Trey Lance, it was Jimmy Ward, and it's like, yes, this is what you wanted to see when you hire a head coach like DeMeco Ryans, a strong leader and someone who was going to make this team better as soon as he steps in the building. I'm not going to name drop anyone yet and, say, who and where we should spend the money. Because honestly, guys, I've been working on this free agency list since week 5 of this year. So if you haven't followed me on Twitter, follow me at 713HSP. I will be talking about our positions and whether or not they need to be upgraded in the offseason, because when you only won 7 games in the past 2 years, pretty much every spot needs to be upgraded on your team. So without further ado, when you're talking about the quarterback position and you're talking about Davis Mills, DeMeco Ryans already addressed that. He's like, we need to add more players to that position. Can you imagine how much better it would be right now, if you didn't have to go into this free agency and draft needing a QB? If Davis Mills would have done what we wanted him to do in the beginning and show that you don't need to take a quarterback, next year, the Houston Texans would have been in a much better situation. However, I can't have, everything my way. The Houston Texans do need a quarterback going into this year. I am expecting a new starter in week 1, and whether it's in free agency, whether it's into the draft, you need to bring in bodies like Coach DeMeco Ryans said. There are some free agents out there. We already know who's coming into the draft. It is going to be interesting at the quarterback position. And then you always got to see what Davis Mills, does, because he's still on this team, regardless who gets brought in. So it's going to be interesting there. The running back position, I think, is solid with Dameon Pierce, who just flashed coming out of Florida. And he needs a partner in crime, right? And I took Bijan Robinson in a mock draft yesterday. How exciting would that tandem be of Bijan Robinson and Dameon Pierce? Because who was the backup running back this year? It wasn't Burkhead. It wasn't Derek Bungawale. It wasn't Royce Freeman. It was just no one. And when you're talking about tread on the tires, we know that the shelf life of a running back isn't that long. You need someone to take the load off of Dameon Pierce. We know the Browns do it good. The Cowboys do it good. The Eagles and 49ers do it good. Multiple running backs who could be successful at any given Sunday. You need that type of production from your running back group. Your wide receiver group, it does get interesting because you are trying to get rid of Brandon Cooks after he quit on your team, and he said he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. I'm not sure if him and DeMeco Ryans have talked yet. However, that ship has sailed. Get Brandon Cooks out of here. With Nico Collins, you are expecting a better year 3 with better quarterback play. Did show flashes this year, right? And also show flashes in the preseason that he could be a low-end number 1 wide receiver. He just needs someone who could get him the ball. When Davis Mills was overthrowing him, hey, Nico Collins is 6'4". You are overthrowing a 6'4" wide receiver. You are, overshooting a guy who has 4.4 speed. We need to utilize Nico Collins, right? And hopefully, with the new QB and the new offensive system, that gets brought out. John Mechie coming back is huge for the Houston Texans. He's kind of like a free agency, addition for me. According to Nick Caserio, he looks leaner, he looks faster, he looks stronger. I am excited for John Mechie being a impactful player here for the Houston Texans. Your tight end group, you definitely have to upgrade it. Do you bring back OJ Howard? I don't know. You should bring back Jordan Akins, who flashed for you at the end of the year. Brevin Jordan just completely fell off for you. We were talking about drafting Michael Mayer from Notre Dame at number 12. There are some tight ends in free agency, but you have to bring in someone there because the Houston Texans haven't had any production there since really CJ Fedorowicz. The offensive line group, it gets interesting, right? Because your two tackles are set, Tunsil and Howard. And Tunsil, you got to restructure him and probably make him the highest paid left tackle. And Titus Howard, you have to extend him. Both guys played good this year. Lerman Tunsil had an all-pro season, even though he didn't get the nod. Kenyon Green at left guard, you love that D'Amico Ryans is here. He's only going to bring out the best from Kenyon Green, who was an absolute beast at A&M. Your center and right guard are, I think, some areas where you need to address drop. Much more the center. It was Justin Britt who only had one game until we found out he just needed to retire. It was a mixture of Quisenberry and Morrissey at center position. No one was good. And at the right guard, it was A.J. Cann. Now, A.J. Cann is interesting because he did okay. You can go out there and upgrade him if you want to. But I wouldn't mind having AJ Cann come back a second year with, with this offensive line. And switching to the defense, you don't need a secondary. Your corners are set. Desmond King, Steven Nelson, Derek Stingley. Dogs, right? Only going to get better with D'Amico Ryans, and we might see more man-to-man this year, right? That is something that D'Amico Ryans said, that I'm going to, use what's best for my players. Excited for the secondary. You might have to bring a safety next to Jalen Petrie, right? I do like Jonathan Owens. However, is he a starter? I really don't know. You could always get better, but I do think you do need a safety opposite of Jalen Petrie. Imagine if it was Jimmy Ward. That would be absolutely crazy. Your linebackers, you have to address it, right? You do like Christian Harris and what he did, at the end of the season, but Christian Kirksey is not the leader. You have to either bring someone in from free agency, a Tremaine Edmonds, from the Buffalo Bills, or draft one. I do think the Houston Texans might draft their linebacker, in this draft, or bring one in free agency, to tie in with D'Amico Ryans. But you also have there's Garrett Wallow there. However, it needs to be addressed. The defensive line for the Houston Texans was just horrible. Jerry Hughes, 38 years old, was your only bright spot. You have to bring in another edge rusher. Your interior line was nowhere to be seen. Every opposing running back was having a career day, and it was crazy that we just threw it back with Roy Lopez and Malik Collins. The whole defensive line needs to get upgraded for me, right? It just wasn't good for the defense and for Lovie Smith. It was kind of last in every category. It did have some moments, right, against the Chiefs and Cowboys and Titans, but at the end of the day, you only won 3 games this year. Everything needs to be upgraded. You guys let me know how you feel. As always, go Texans. You guys have a very blessed day.